You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So for the last several weeks, I kept saying, I have nothing to tell you. I have nothing. Nothing is happening. Nothing. And now, today, I can boldly announce I broke my foot.
Whoa, no.
So sorry. Like, are you telling us that you should have been careful what you wished for?
Right? When they have that, you know how that saying's been around for a long time, and then people are really overusing it now, where they're saying to each other, remember when they said, may you live in uninteresting times? And you go out, I'm not sure I believe that. Well, look, now it's happening. Yes, so after having, we've had a lot of kind of down personal time, right? Being in our homes and stuff, which is where we should be, increasingly more where we should be. Sure if we somehow can't avoid a party of over 100 people, which I feel the draw to, everyone. Oh, yes. Anyway, I decided to, excuse me, my dog wouldn't come in the house. There were some stairs in the back. Cash, yes, Cash the dumb one, as we fondly know him. He would not come up the stairs, and so I went down the stairs to get him, and it was rainy, and I had flip-flops on, and I thought I was at the ground, but it turned out there was still one more stair to go. So my foot just went for a big free fall into the concrete.
So
and,
sorry.
Flip-flops are dangerous, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what they're good for, because when you always hear people tell stories about how like they tried to run in them and they fell, right?
Yeah.
I don't really know. Like, I mean, I guess they're just like extremely convenient.
They're just quick to wear.
I think the only thing they're really good for is if you're at the beach and the sand is hot and you need to walk to the concession to get a beverage.
I like it when my toes can breathe. It does feel nice.
It is good for that, but in terms of anything practical or useful
no, for sure.
Any sort of journey, long or short, it is probably not a good idea. So, fell, and now I have 3 fractured bones in the top of my foot.
Oh my God.
One of those boots, which I've never had to wear, and crutches. So I can't go out at all. Can't drive a car because it's my right foot. I have a lot of stairs, so I can't even really go out into the yard to sit. I guess I can sit on my patio.
Yeah, sit on the deck or something.
Yeah, I can sit on the deck. But, you know, I have 2 dogs. I love taking them for a walk. I like to go for a morning walk just to, clear the head. And so it looks like that'll be off for a very long time. Also, I didn't know if I mentioned this, but I bought a badminton net, and I've been like, I love badminton.
Oh, no. This is a cursed badminton net. I'm so sorry.
And I put the badminton net up in my backyard. And so anyway.
It's just mocking you now.
Yeah, hi, Lisa. So what are you up to? So now, there you go. We have something to talk to. Have either of you ever broken a bone or?
No, I've cracked my middle finger twice, obviously.
Ooh.
But that's it.
Details, please.
Overuse,
yeah. No, I, my sister was, throwing a football around, and I thought, okay, fine, I'll try and catch it. And, yeah, I did, but with, the literal tips of my middle finger, and, you could just feel the sort of slight crack throughout and then I couldn't bend it for weeks.
Did you have to wear a splint or something, or?
No, I'm one of those idiots who doesn't go to the hospital when I should sometimes, and so I just let it. I'm gonna look forward to that arthritis. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Lisa, you seem in remarkably good spirits considering what happened to you. You seem pretty cheery this fine Saturday morning.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of time to think, and it's really it's not that bad. I mean, it is annoying, but that's about all it is. It's just annoying. I mean, what does it just mean? I get some extra time with Netflix, extra time with reading. I feel weirdly, I'm one of those people that does that thing. And when I hear other people do it, I laugh at them, but they're like, yeah, we went through the whole hurricane and it destroyed my whole house, but I wasn't there. So I'm so lucky. And part of me is like, wouldn't it have been luckier if the hurricane hadn't destroyed your house at all? Like, wouldn't that be?
But apparently that wasn't the option. So they have to put it in. Yeah.
Exactly. So I do that personally all the time.
Yeah.
That's just my default, is to go, well, it could have been a lot worse. They kept asking me, did you hit your head? Did you hit any other part of your body? And I'm like, no, I did not. Only this. I'm pretty lucky. So.
I mean, actually, that's probably like very healthy, all things considered, because like, you can always sort of, if you can at least like place yourself next to something that could have been worse, it really helps you deal with like with the reality of what you do have to deal with.
I think it would have been over my lifetime. I mean, I know neither of you have broken bones, but I'm sure you've hit your tailbone.
Oh God, yeah, I have actually.
Honestly,
really
that
badly.
is way more painful than this. Like, this is not really particularly painful. I just keep it up, put some ice on it. It doesn't hurt that much. But when I've hit my tailbone and like had to like try and sit or move around and things like that, that was way worse. And so I keep thinking how lucky I was that I didn't like fall down the stairs.
Yeah.
From the top or something and did some kind of wild head injury.
Or have you ever done that where you've been at the top of the stairs and you take like a weird step and you almost lose your footing, and then you're just like, whoa, that could have been a total disaster.
And I don't know what the stats are between people dying from falling downstairs, but it happens a lot in movies.
It sure does.
And I feel like I've seen a lot of death by stair falls in movies where someone just gets that shove at the top.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, like, and didn't we even see that in Baby Jane? Didn't she? Or did she survive that?
I always think like you're really like, if you are a like that's got to be one of those cases where someone would get charged with like second degree, not first degree. Because if you're really planning to murder someone, you can't believe that the staircase will be your accomplice. Like it might hurt someone, but it's not going to get the job done.
I suppose it depends on where or how, like.
This sounds like someone who's thought about it.
I'm just thinking about it right now. I'm just like, that is not a foolproof way to murder someone.
But what if it was because there's different sorts of stairs. Like if you're talking about a building, a set of stairs in a building, they're all concrete.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Or marble. That's, what? Yeah, you're right.
One whack on the head, it really doesn't matter what happens to the rest of the body.
You have to be really, as the murderer, you'd have to be really lucky to hope that they do get the conk on the head. Because you could fall down a whole, like, I've fallen down several stairs and never hit my head at all.
Wow.
And like, you didn't hit your head.
I like how you're now like a witness for involuntary manslaughter in like a stairway murder case.
Yeah, I understand that this is not my area of expertise, but I just
or this could be one of these situations where it's like that sort of gateway to murder. Like where this person didn't like someone and they were having a fight, and then they turn around because they're so angry and they fall down the stairs and die, and that person's all like, well, that was easy.
Yeah, true. I just think like if you are going to murder someone at the top of a staircase, chances are there's also a banister right next to you and a free drop. So just chuck them over the banister. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're really counting on the stairs to do some of your work. And I just think you're not in it to really win it as a murderer if you're not trying harder.
Can I segue into another stair story?
Yeah.
That I've made me think of. So, many years ago, I lived in this really beautiful apartment. There was only 2 floors, heritage building, big wide hallways, and this big, beautiful, giant staircase up the center. So it it had the one flight. Well, I had a flight of stairs down to the basement and then the main floor, and then the big flight, a landing, and then another flight, right?
Yeah.
Quite wide, beautiful wood slats. Anyway, my friend, Ed, had been at my house and drank way too much red wine and accompanied it with popcorn. And then he just said, I gotta go, like that. Mm-hmm. And he didn't live very far away, so I was like, okay, well, stumble home, you look drunk. And then about 15 minutes later, some other friends of mine came over and I buzzed them in and they come in and they went, okay, so Ed has barfed all over the stairs. Mm-hmm. Well, there were only like maybe 20 apartments in the whole building, like 10 on each floor. 100% everyone would know it was me because we were the ones always having idiots over to drink and be loud. Like that was our thing. So we had to go and clean that. And it was many years ago, and I can still remember how horrible that was because he managed to, not just one place, but sort of all the way down the stairs in those slats that went down into the next.
No.
Yeah. And so we had to open the window. There was a big, beautiful window on that landing. And when my one friend had to keep going out, just and then run back in. But we did our best.
But so he threw up and then just kept walking home?
Yeah, he just was that drunk. He just didn't think about it. I mean, I don't think he would have come back to clean it anyway.
Red wine and popcorn, that's a brutal combo.
And not digested. That popcorn had very little time to linger.
Yeah.
It pretty much said, hi, and then came back out again. So it just felt like a very long night. And it was luckily, like, to me, here I am again, luckily it was around midnight. So there wasn't like a steady stream of neighbors.
Yeah, no one was like
seeing me and my friends clean up, vomit and popcorn and red wine vomit.
Yeah. That's brutal. I have to say, like, of all the staircase things that we've talked about, it actually does segue nicely into one of my favorite scenes from the movie that we're going to talk about. Is when they're dancing down the staircase out of the school building to have that street party. I literally turned to Kraus and I was like, what is even happening in this movie? How are they all...
It seems like if you go to this school, we haven't said what it is yet, but we will.
You've never done that before, Andrea.
I've never
been part of a group dance
down the street and then pour as like a school en masse.
You will be expected to do dance and acting and music, academics, and also be ready for an impromptu dance party at any point.
I mean, I am always ready for an impromptu dance party, so that's fine. But I've never had occasion to just literally bounce down the stairs. Like every dance film I've ever watched has had a staircase like a staircase dance scene, right? Like even Dirty Dancing, she's always practicing on the stairs, like there's that great montage. Like it delighted me to no end, I have to say.
Just to let everyone know, we are also dressed up in the most popular outfit of this movie, which is short shorts and leg warmers.
Yep. I kept my sleep braid in. And, so I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And we're really excited we're a bit punchy because it's a Saturday morning, which is not when we normally record. And we're going to talk about the 1980 film Fame.
And if you do look it up, it's funny how you have to make sure you put that in. Because there was a remake and there was a TV show.
Yeah, don't get the TV show. Don't get the remake in 2009.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and also like I know we don't always celebrate like the normal anniversaries, but this year we are. 40th anniversary of Fame.
Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Fame. And
we nailed it.
Finally.
For once, we're not at 39 or 41. We got this one. It. Yeah, and it's interesting again because it's another one of those movies that definitely you can see that it was 1980 by the look of their clothes, the lack of technology, and the fact that their New York looks like garbage everywhere. I know. It's so like the gritty New York people you didn't get to see. You get to see that here. But that said, it's still very timeless. I think you could still write those characters exactly the same. You could keep the dialogue exactly the same and nothing would be different.
I agree. Like, I was really shocked at how contemporary it felt, but yeah, let's do a little background, a little synopsis, and then get into it. I can do the background. Fame is a 1980 American teen musical drama film directed by Alan Parker. Set in New York City, it chronicles the lives and hardships of students attending the High School of Performing Arts, known today as Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School, from their auditions to their freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years. Do you want to read
I'll do the synopsis then. Yeah, okay. The New York High School of Performing Arts is a highly competitive free school for the city's most talented youth. Over the course of 4 years, Fame follows one class from audition to graduation, narrowing in on the lives of 8 students as they grapple with everything from sexuality to racism to homelessness, while also honing their skills and pursuing their passions for dance, acting, and music. And wait, I want to qualify something that I said, and I feel like there are a couple of areas where it's extremely dated and dealing with someone being gay.
Oh, well, that's super dated. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was actually really shocked.
Well, it's before the AIDS panic. Like,
yeah.
there was a lot of, the student is out, which is actually, I think, a pretty like bold choice for the film. And it's just the way that like he is then sort of taunted and teased by some of his classmates, including like some of his friends. But we see that that's like a real performative, sort of like macho thing on the part of Ralph, who, they're actually quite close. So you two both seen the film before?
Yes, I had. A long time ago, though. I haven't rewatched it in, golly, a long time. Yeah. I think I did like the series, though. And I genuinely, as we've discussed here, enjoy competitive talent shows.
Yes.
From audition to, sad story about why you're here and what you had to overcome and who you're performing for.
God, this really is right up your alley then on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I was really thinking about watching the auditions and thinking about about watching American Idol and The Voice and all of that. So You Think You Can Dance, which I've not watched, but how this, I guess it felt novel at the time watching the audition process. And I feel like anyone watching this movie now is like, oh, that whole, like, it's such a big part of those shows now.
Yeah. Yeah. AG, you had watched it when you were a kid, right?
No, I thought I did, but I had only watched the TV series.
Oh, okay.
And I watched it like obsessively every week with my sister. So yeah, I had a completely different idea of what this film was going to be because the TV series is quite different. And yeah, this film is a lot darker. And I hear what Lisa's saying, like most of the issues feel very contemporary, and that's amazing that it's so timeless. But I was a little surprised at how dark it was because I thought it was, just kind of like the TV show, like a movie about kids in a performing arts school that doesn't delve too deeply in their sort of the dark lives of that, I guess, teenagers in the late 70s led in New York City.
Yeah, well, I had never seen the film, and I've never watched the TV show either, but I knew about Fame, because it just sort of is, it's sort of part of our pop culture conversation, right?
Well, and then Irene Cara song is so iconic still.
Yeah, Irene Cara song for sure, and but I didn't even know that it was Irene Cara in the film. Like, when she comes out of, like, when I was talking about that dancing down the hall, out of the school into the street, when, his dad is playing their music on the speakers out of his taxi, which is so cute, by the way. But when she says, "Oh my God, that's me singing," I had no idea that was actually Irene Cara in the film. And when I found that out, I was just like even extra floored because I just was, I don't know, I didn't realize how young she was. And then I pieced it. Then I did a bit of reading, and there was this movie Sparkle that I was going to suggest that we do at some point down the road. And she starred in it in 1976. And she looks like she's 12 in this movie. So it's wild to me that she was also starring in a film in 1976. But the audition sequences I love so much, and I feel like the movie starts out in a very specific place and ends in a very different place. And I know that the talent scout who was sort of behind the whole idea originally was inspired by seeing a chorus line on Broadway.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of darkness in that film or that musical as well. And so, and he was really invested in the darkness. Like, he wanted to see people's dreams be shattered by the end of the film, even though they're only 18 years old.
But so Alan Parker, who directed the movie, like the film that he did previous to Fame was Midnight Express.
Which I have seen, and boy, let's take another level down of depression.
I know, that's even, I mean, that's so dark.
I've never seen Midnight Express.
Oh boy. Well, have you been to a Turkish prison? Because if you have, you don't need to watch it.
I have to say, I have not. So,
well, then you might be interested.
All right, cool. So, what did you guys think? Like, I mean, like, in the way that this movie has sort of been a part of a lot of our pop culture for so long, like since it came out, like, why do you think it resonated so deeply and got the TV show spinoff and then has also had a remake?
Well, A Chorus Line is a hugely popular Broadway musical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if there was somehow playing into that. I've not seen A Chorus Line, I'll be honest, and I've meant to always, but I understand it's got a lot to do with about the process of how they all got there as much as getting there.
Yeah.
What it took. And I wonder if that kind of seeded people into that whole spirit, that whole thing going so crazy and everyone talking about it and then wanting to peek back and see, get a sense of who these people are. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think at the time, dancing in musicals, for kids, it was just huge for me and my sister when we were young, and my cousins, we would all listen to the Grease soundtrack over and over and over again and make up dance routines to it. And I think that was just the culture of late 70s, early 80s.
Well, Fame predates Footloose and Dirty Dancing and Flashdance and all these Fame is really sort of a precursor to that. I know it's not a precursor to Grease because Grease was 79.
Yeah,
but all around the same time. But but I do think it is a really I think if I had been a teenager when this came out, I would have been obsessed with it. Honestly,
the movie or the TV show?
The movie. I never saw the TV show, so I don't know. I would be interested in rewatching that.
Well, 4 of the characters are the same. Leroy's in the TV show, and so is the German professor, and Bruno, and
they're the same actors.
Debbie Allen.
Are they the same actors?
Yeah, same actors.
Oh wow.
Debbie
okay.
Allen.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why it was confusing for me because I was have I seen this?
Right. Yeah.
But no, I don't think. I'm pretty sure I hadn't.
Well, and Debbie Allen's only in the first few minutes of the movie because her character got cut because she was supposed to be a rival to Coco in the film.
Really?
And,
I thought she was a teacher.
No, they ended up making her she's supposed to actually be an older student.
Oh,
in that scene.
Okay.
And then when Debbie Allen saw the film, she was like, "Oh, apparently I'm just a very young teacher."
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what happened in that situation, and Lydia had a whole story that she was supposed to rival Coco, and
Are we supposed to get the sense that Coco was the star pupil? I never got that sense. Did we?
Well, that's the thing. I think so. This movie, I think a lot of things happened to do some great disservices to certain characters. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I feel, and I think there was just some weird. There's a weird journey with how it was written, which we can go into in a little bit, or we can go into right now if you want.
I just want to say that one of the weird things about this movie is that it feels kind of like they filmed a whole bunch of scenes,
yeah,
and then edited it around the 4 years. and just suck them in, because there's no continuity. Her brother, Doris's little brother who plays piano, and the first
same age.
is the exact same age. Montgomery's hair makes no sense at all. Sometimes it's a huge red afro. Sometimes it's short to his head. Like, does he tease it? Like, there was no, I just feel like they had all these scenes and thought this one would be best in freshman year. This one would be best in junior year. And then no one cared, like, at all. Just like, we'll stick them in here.
It's a possibility, yes. So basically, here's what, 1976, this talent manager sees Chorus Line, decides he wants to sort of set something in the New York High School of Performing Arts. He recruits Christopher Gore, Leslie Gore's brother. In 1977, he pays Gore to draft a script titled Hot Lunch, which is how we end up with that insane lunch sequence where they're all singing Hot Lunch. The movie was originally supposed to be called Hot Lunch. And so it provides like the story and ideas involving the plot and the character. So he pays Gore $5,000, and then De Silva takes the project to MGM, which pays him $400,000 for the script. Then director Alan Parker gets the script after the release of Midnight Express. He meets with De Silva, and they agree that he can draft his own script. And that's how it got like much darker, even though Gore receives the sole screenwriting credit. And then it just all sort of spins out from there. So this really is like two completely separate movies that have been jammed together. And Gore wrote a much happier like version of the film, and that was his vision. And then Alan Parker wrote his version of the film. And the quote is, I was really motivated and interested in the joy of what the school represented for these kids. And Alan Parker was much more interested in where the pain was in going to the school. And so we had our little conflicts based on that area.
That makes a lot of sense. It makes, it does make the, I get, that explains why it feels so chaotic, kind of.
Yeah. And I appreciate movies that do sort of like explore darkness as well as joy, but this really does end in, like, it really devolves quickly. And I think that, like, we have so much time where we get to know some of these characters really well. Other characters, their stories fall off, like, completely. I really feel like the Leroy and Coco's storylines start out kind of strong and then get sort of sidelined in favor of, like, the three white characters who are really,
was she dating him? Because when she tells the blonde ballerina, like, he's already taken, I was like, by whom? Like, why are you sounding so aggressive? I don't even know.
There's a whole back storyline there that we don't.
I thought you were seeing Bruno. I don't understand. Like,
but I don't think she is. I think Bruno's just in love with her, and she just wants to make music.
Bruno's in love with her? I never got that sense either.
Yeah, I think when she sings her song at the piano and Bruno's dad comes in, Bruno's meant to be in love with her, and we have no idea why is she sneaking into the subway? Like, where is she going? We don't know anything about like her really at all, except that
why they spend so much time on that ballerina story too. Like, what the heck was that about?
Again, just like, it seems like just injecting like another sort of like white character to detract from, like, because she's really who hijacks Leroy's journey, like, and she gets, but not really, monologue, but like
not really.
Well, she does to a certain extent, because he, like, we don't spend much more time with him other than him having that sort of moment with his teacher. Oh,
I thought you meant like that he doesn't do well hijack, but no, you're right. No, his storyline,
his storyline gets hijacked, because of the abortion and because of them hooking up, and like there's so much going on, and Leroy is such a force from the beginning of the film. Like, as soon as he came on screen, I like turned to Carlos and I was like, this person is amazing, and we need to find out everything he ever did and watch everything he ever did. And in
the TV show, it's more focused on his dancing, and that's why, like, Leroy was my favorite character of the TV show, because like I, as a kid, just like I was amazed at his dancing. Like I thought he was the most fantastic dancer I've ever seen.
But he is.
Like, yeah, and yeah. I mean, I still remembered like his look and his character's name, like all this time later.
You're saying the lyrics to the song. You will remember my name.
Yeah, exactly.
He was famed, damn it.
He was famed. I don't know, like perhaps also that gritty New York street scene and, you know, talking about the different visions for the story. But man, oh man, like I would like part of the reason I kind of like, even when I was in journalism school, I don't think you have a sense until you get out. But for those few years you're in there, the assumption is you're going to get out and just be awesome, right? Like, and everyone believes that. Yeah. Like it's the same conceit you have for everyone. You're like, I'm going to buy this weird dress and you're going to wonder why, but I know I'll be wearing it when you get your Pulitzer. Like it's that kind of delusional thinking, right? Or you'll come into school and you're like, I don't know why everyone likes Hunter S. Thompson so much. I think it's you just think you're so crazy good. So the fact that these poor kids were subjected to so much angst so early, like there's, like Ralph staring at himself in the, like having one of those mirrors backstage at a comedy club. I'm like, you're 18. What?
But like he gets one taste of fame and he's immediately an alcoholic who's abusive to everybody around him.
Yeah. Like it was such a quick
the slippery slopes are so slippery and such rapid descents. Like
the guy who becomes the waiter quickly, like he was off to Hollywood.
I mean, honestly, that really that resonated with me because that you could tell. So like, in your high school, you had like a few superstars who were getting like scholarships and recruited to go places and do fancy things or whatever. And those were always the first dudes that came back to visit their old high school because that's where they felt the most famous. So Michael's sequence where they see him in the restaurant and he has to take their order and they all order the fried clams just to be nice to him.
The fried clam sounds so good.
Oh, it does, for sure. Carlos was really excited about eating fried clams, and
I was too. Strangely, I think that was not the way I was supposed to see that scene. But I was like,
no, for sure. But like,
fried clams.
But I just think this is absolutely a movie in which like the man who wrote it is a dream crusher.
Yeah,
and the teens. And somehow even still there's like this sort of like balance at the end where at least they've all graduated high school and there's something powerful and celebratory about that, even if they haven't escaped unscathed. You know what I mean? Like,
I think they should just not call it grad anymore. I think all high schools should just call it the body electric. Just
man, because you listen to that song at the end and it's a nice song and you're like, this is pretty catchy, and then you start listening to the lyrics and you're like, this is so trippy. It's like so 70s. Like the lyrics don't even really make sense. Like they're kind of about becoming a star, but also what does the body electric mean?
I don't even know.
It's a reference to a Walt Whitman poem.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah. Okay, but that's big.
That's a big leap too, and I mean, So can we talk about the music in this movie, like, and the sequences? Like, what were of the like wild sequences, where there's like just group singing and group performance for seemingly no reason? Which is your favorite? Is it? I mean, the graduation I'm going to include, even though there is a rhyme and reason to that. The lunch sequence.
I have to say that the lunch sequence, I felt like Doris when she kind of just like, there's something, I've always had an aversion, like a personal, to people that are like, like just too into something. It makes me uncomfortable. And I get how great it is, wild abandon, woo, and all that stuff, right? But I also feel like I just wanted lunch. Like, I just wanted to get some of this. And then, in fact, everyone, the movie was called Hot Lunch. So this is a really important part of this movie that I'm doing right now, getting this hot lunch. And meanwhile, did she just get an apple?
Yeah.
I mean, and then she...
I I saw in your notes that it's based on a real life high school.
Yeah, it is based. This high school is like a real high school in New York, and it's
Every city there's a reality show about one in Pennsylvania, and it has that really beautiful like high end reality show where the auditions are super well shot, and it's some kind of big like an old heritage building that's beautiful out in the countryside kind of. And I watched a bit of that. Because my question is always like, there's one in Langley, right? That's performing arts school too. Yeah,
Langley, yeah.
Like I'm like, are they just twisting around in the hallways doing pliés all the time? And it's or
well, I mean,
yes.
that's what I was gonna say. Like in a way, the film kind of builds up to these ridiculous, like the hot lunch scene, because like they show these continuous scenes of children being made to like act, or like do makeup dances or embody this character, or like they're kind of asked to do ridiculous things, and throughout like their auditioning process and throughout being in school. And so in a way it doesn't seem like that big a stretch that they'd all start doing a crazy random dance in the cafeteria during lunchtime just because that's what everybody else was doing.
It also did seem to kind of just rely every once in a while on the trope of just kids playing violin, like just they were just
always.
All of a sudden, and that was our indication.
Always an Asian kid too.
Yeah, and it's always our mental image, and it's a lot of hard work here. It's a lot of hard work.
Well, I was, that's actually sort of really interesting about Andrea, you clocking like that it's typically Asian kids playing violin, because they do start out with the Asian woman or Asian girl who is auditioning for theater. And
yes.
I thought, oh God,
I noted that.
Like,
that was a great scene.
Yeah. And I was actually pretty impressed in the first like 15 minutes of the film of just like how much like racial diversity and also body diversity there was that like was sort of starting out. And then it really doesn't hold up for the rest of the movie. Like it sort of like you see people again and again and again, but I would have been, I think, quite fine with like, focusing in less specifically on only 8 characters. Like, I think this is the weird movie where I could have been okay with like it actually having like 15 leads that we sort of dart in and out to see like their progression as their talent and like have a bit of their interior lives reflected through their talent, as opposed to us like having to go home with them. Or like to like not home with them, like whatever they're like, they wanted to always provide this sort of context for like behaviors and things like that. And I feel like there's like a different film here somewhere that could exist where, or like, what? I bet there's like a 7-hour draft of Fame, and I would actually watch the 7-hour version.
See,
of
part
the
of
Fame
me was
movie.
like, it was so long. It was well over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's
and
long.
I would have cut the Rocky Horror Picture Show scene in a heartbeat. Like, what was the point of that? What were we doing there?
Well, I was reading there was a 40th anniversary piece that someone wrote for Shondaland. I can't remember who wrote it for Shondaland, but I know that it exists on the Shondaland website. And so they did a bunch of interviews with lots of folks who were involved in the film, mostly on the sort of production side, as well as Debbie Allen. And the director was saying that he had been to a Rocky Horror Picture Show event. Like, he'd heard about these, like, events that were happening. And he decided that he wanted this to be where Doris, like, embraces, like, her performance self. And this was vital to her character. And I just it doesn't really compute.
It does not work at all.
Like, it's like fine, but I don't care enough about Doris. Like, the amount of time we spend with Doris. Yeah. She's interesting and she's fine. And I like that her and Ralph sort of find each other. And I like that at the end she is not going to be treated like crap and she's going to leave. But like, it's not sort of that compelling to me to watch her find a place for herself on stage at the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
And also, all it told me when I was watching that scene is, this is not your scene. Like, you are not this.
Yes.
Like, this is not who you are. Like, this is a very niche world that you will not be dipping into ever again. Like,
yeah, because she talks about how she's like, I don't care if I don't have a personality, I could just put on personalities.
Yeah, I see her more as a Sardis dinner after the Tonys. I do not see her as, let's get up and I'll go and see the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the 150th time. That's not her journey.
Yeah. Also, they didn't take Montgomery with them, which is not cool. Montgomery wanted to go.
Yeah.
And they
like, what happened there? He was the one who would...
yeah.
And why was Montgomery suggesting it in the afternoon when there was a singing party? Like, isn't it at night?
Well, he wanted to go that evening, and she had to go to the birthday.
Yeah, the birthday was in the evening, I guess.
I guess like the children's birthday was in the evening.
Was that midnight? Because usually Rocky Horror is at midnight, isn't it?
I mean, I love that a lot of time stuff doesn't hold up in this movie. So
I'm sorry, but that was fixating on me. I just was like irritated, and I was irritated by that mother. I just thought it was like a really boring. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like
stage mom.
Yeah, and making her so pathetic. You know, it just was a lot, and I didn't.
I kind of felt like through the first, segment of the movie, because they divided it into their different years.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, like, when are they going to start the story? Because it just kept being like these scenes of them auditioning and stuff like that. And then they move on to like the sophomore year and kind of start telling stories about the characters. And then I'm like, wow, like they're not really like, I'm hearing too much about like too few characters now. Like, I want to go back to sort of seeing the school and seeing more dancing. And, like, I don't know, like it when you're talking about the writing process and how it was like two people with completely different ideas going back and forth, you can really sort of see it there. Because there's some parts where there's like no story and you're sort of aching for a story. And then when they get to the story, you're like, oh, this is not, I kind of don't like this.
Well, the only sense we had to, like, there weren't very many backstories into how all of them got to where they loved being, like whatever they were doing. We didn't get, the only kind of peak we got into that, I guess, is that really, really sad moment where Ralph talks about his dad beating him up and he was making people laugh.
Yeah.
And there was some sense of his that this is really, really bleak and horrible, but I can make people laugh. And that somehow sparked something in him. But in terms of how did Bruno get to music, I don't know. How did Irene and Cara, like, I don't know how any of them got, like, what was Leroy's story? Was he at home and someone put some music on? I would have loved to have seen a flashback of him dancing in the living room or something with the TV on and his parents going, look at you, or whatever, like Doris, let's be honest, I don't even know how she got into that school. Like, what did she do? Something in another room that was better?
I think they had her audition for theater after she really tanked the music, because she seemed to do a good job in theater as an actor, but like her singing was terrible.
Yeah.
What I found interesting is that I wonder if and when we watch this movie in the 80s, we would have had a different attitude towards the teachers and how they were treating their students. Because now in 2020, we have all this like history of, young athletes being kind of like abused or psychologically abused by coaches.
Right,
and when you watch it through that lens now, you're like, oh, these teachers are so hard on them. They're so mean. Like, they're the one teacher who like kicks the girl out of the dance program and, saying like, you'll never make it. You're not good enough. And all of that.
Then again, it totally looks like that teacher made the right call.
Yeah, but I don't
because
think
then the students all, I guess I'll go into acting then, right? I mean,
yeah.
But for a second, it seemed like she was going to step into the sun.
That was a bit rude the way they did that.
But I think there is something really valuable about having teachers who are sort of exacting and because I didn't find the acting teacher wasn't too bad to me. The dance teacher, obviously, she seemed to really focus on Lisa, which was sad. And it seemed like
Leroy's teacher.
I'm getting to Leroy's teacher. And the dance teacher. But I think I do think it is kind of important if this person's been dancing for 12 years and is still not good, and she knows that she sort of lacks the innate grace that she's supposed to have as a ballerina. Yeah. It's mean, but I think it's actually better than they just continue to sort of like pick on you, and like you're both wasting each other's time. However, Anna Mira, and the ways in which she like really like just bullies Leroy and sort of makes fun of his illiteracy and doesn't do anything to try and really help him. Like, I understand that he is a troubled kid and, you know, there's all kinds of stuff like happening in between them, but like she absolutely seems to be like really like treating him with this sort of racist, like she is racist against him and she's being mean to him and she is trying to humiliate him in front of his peers. He's extremely angry and he's got like a lot of pushback, but like I felt it was pretty fairly justified. What I thought was super interesting at the end is when her husband's super sick in the hospital and like Leroy goes to to tell her about Alvin Ailey and get mad at her for not wanting to talk to him. Like, I think she gets a point. She gets to have her moment of like, what is wrong with you kids? It's not about you all the time. And I think like in the hospital, obviously that's fair. But in the school, it is about them. Like that. Like,
well, that seemed so off-brand to me. The entire reason this school exists is because people have become so self-absorbed that they have managed before the age of 15 to learn how to dance and do music. If they hadn't been self-absorbed, they would not be there.
Yeah, like you have to have a certain level of sort of like preoccupation with your talent. That's what you're there at this school for.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it was an interesting like moment of sort of like that seems to try and absolve her of her racism and like her sort of like inherent kind of awfulness. And I like that
because he had a good speech. He had some really and again, we didn't see enough to really understand why he felt those things. You know, like she tried to shame him for being illiterate in class, but when he brought up some really specific race issues, I thought that was super interesting. But I wonder if that was just stuff that was cut out, right? Where
I think that I don't think the movie wants to engage. Like the movie's willing to sort of engage with it on one level.
Yeah.
But it's not willing to actually do the work of like acknowledging white supremacy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like no, that's why it was such an important thing that he brought up. And then it just gets dropped so quickly and he holds her hand.
Yeah.
And I suppose we're supposed to take away from that scene that he learned empathy today or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things that I really hate that as like a resolution to like this particular storyline, and it's
I just think too. Also, though, with like Bruno and the older German teacher, like kind of being negative towards his experimental music and the stuff he was trying and stuff like that. Like, I just think it would be it's just a little bit different today. Like, teachers would be more like, oh, you're trying new things. That's great. And like try to nurture people's experimentation and children doing like creative things.
Well, it's weird for him to say that
wouldn't
too.
Be like trying to stuff him into a box.
Because I'm trying to think of like experimental music, and like that time would have been really ripe for that. Like Tangerine Dream was making music, right? Kraftwerk was making music. What's her name that did the soundtrack to A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah, but I think it is true from the perspective that he is a classical dinosaur, and those hardcore classical folks were discounting synthesized music up until honestly still today. There's a bunch of people in 2020 who
it's
are
just weird that they didn't bother giving us any context. You know what I mean? Like the
they
movie
don't give us much context in a lot.
The
of
only
situations.
sort of pop culture moment you would kind of have are those Freddie Prinze references, and
which are
Alvin,
a lot.
Yeah, Alvin Ailey in terms of dance, but otherwise the film sort of is kind of in this nebulous. You just come here and you get the foundation, and then you go off, and good luck.
Yeah, and that's why I think like it would be this is why I don't mind a longer cut of like seeing if there's ever more context for any of these kinds of relationships and stuff, because like the Body Electric at the end, it fuses like classical and it fuses electronic composition, and it has this sort of like resolution in that it resolves in favor of Bruno on a lot of levels, and the teacher is in the audience and he's he's not giving a lot of facial acknowledgement, but like the understanding is that this is a powerful performance and he is proven wrong, you know, like it's a very subtle thing. But yeah, I don't know. I really like this movie though. It's weird. I know it's like so depressing at the end and there's a lot of stuff that's hard. And if I never have to watch that Irene Cara scene on camera where she just, it looks like we're watching children, like
what was the point to show, what
sad.
was the point of that? Like, what was the point of that scene? To remind her that the world's going to be awful and you're going to fail? Like, I was so...
I think it is, honestly, like that there's like so much exploitation of young actresses. Yes. Like it's sickening and it's awful.
But
and
I would have wondered, wouldn't that have like, I would have thought that would come up because there was that scene where the acting teacher's like, this isn't just about you being good. It's about getting an agent. It's about getting a manager. I would have thought that there would have been a moment where there would have been some talk about that. Like, a lot of creepy men are going to probably try and tell you that, you know what I mean? Like that's got to come up in acting classes.
I mean, I think that is, especially in 1980, like that was just, it doesn't really necessarily come up as creepy. It's paying your dues. Like it's really framed quite differently, I think, in 2020 versus 1980.
Yeah, but they did everything they could to tell us this guy was not a filmmaker. Like
100%. No, I mean,
there was no way.
But I just think like in acting classes, like, and it's a man as the acting coach, right? Like he's not going to have as many sort of like risks to him. He's going to have a lot of other experiences as a black man acting, and he can speak to a lot of those things, but he might not, like the flags for like young women entering the field are just not going to be necessarily the same.
Maybe.
For him,
yeah,
right?
That's fair. Yeah.
But like,
yeah. And I mean, I think it's like casting couch culture has been happening up until now, like it's just, I think they're making a point about like how young and naive people, like performers, enter the industry and how vulnerable they are to like predators.
Yeah.
Because no one prepares them.
Well, and
they're
also
just
like
pursuing a dream, right?
Yeah, and like a dude coming up to you in a coffee shop, like, I mean, we don't know what Coco's background is. Like, we have no idea if she has any family anywhere. Like she is a young woman wearing blazers to school. She's dressing like a little bit older. She's like,
she's very focused. She's very determined. Yeah.
She's not going to be distracted by Bruno's crush on her. She wants to go and make money. She wants them in grade 9. She wants them to start a band and play venues for weddings for the summer so that they can make their own money. Like, I think we're meant to understand that she is both years ahead of where other students are and also like still extremely vulnerable to exploitation because of her desperation to like be validated by directors.
Is it because she's hungry for fame?
Always hungry for fame.
Because I mean that's a very interesting distinction about the like, again, back to that, the dual roles of, or the kind of feelings you have of two stories going on at the same time. Because there's definitely one thing about being an artist and learning craft and all those things. And then there's that crass, I want to be famous. Yeah. I don't care what it takes. I want you to remember my name. And, nowhere in that song does it say, I want you to remember my name because I did something so unique that no one had ever seen this before. And the world recognized my singular talent. No, it's a song about, it's a weird song because it doesn't really fit with this movie.
Because I mean, I feel like Coco and Bruno, like you see that they have innate talent and you know why they're in the school. But some of the others, you're like, they're just kind of regular kids who got into school. Like I guess, are they trying to say that like anyone can enter a school and be trained and nurture a talent? But yeah, it was just really obvious to me that like, there are a couple of characters we were following that were like, yeah, this is like a traditional, like I see you're good at something and you've got talent and you've got potential to be a star. But most of the others was like, you're kind of just regular folks who are spending a lot of time on working on these singing or acting.
I mean, because the original title was Hot Lunch, I just want to keep that in mind. Like kids were getting a hot lunch by going to this school. And it's a free school, so they don't have to pay to go to any kind of, but it's still special and you have to audition to get in. So I think class issues were supposed to be sort of much bigger part of the original
script. So what
script.
was Ballerina Girl doing there? Was it actually that good of a school?
Because it's the performing arts school.
Okay.
And they sort of like, and she talks about how she doesn't want to be accused of buying her way into like a place in the New York Ballet. But then also like, so the Fame, they ended up taking that title for the movie from the David Bowie song. And then wrote the song inspired by that idea. So there's actually like this.
There's
a lot going on. But so just before we like sort of wrap up, I just want to. John Murray he's a pop culture writer, and he was quoted in the Shondaland article that I mentioned earlier. And I just want to read his quote because I think it's kind of interesting, and I think it sums up sort of what this movie's legacy is. He says, I was a child living in a small country town in Virginia when Fame premiered, and it was my first time seeing a multicultural cast depicted like that. It really showcased marginalized groups in a way that empowered them and effectively captured their journeys. I think Fame's ability to present aspiring creatives working towards a bigger dream while overcoming various obstacles really resonated, and that's why diehard fans have remained loyal to the franchise.
That seems fair. I mean, I was thinking about the diversity of the school and the characters and how it definitely felt very like, you know, how they always say that it felt reflective of what New York looked like.
Yeah. Some fun trivia before I get to the sad thing. Madonna screen tested for a role in the movie and on the TV show and didn't get them. But eventually Alan Parker directed her in Evita in 1996. Huh. And then also allegedly Tom Cruise, Patrick Swayze, and Michelle Pfeiffer all tested for or auditioned for roles and did not get them.
Wow.
I know, right? Wild. Can you imagine? So sad news about Leroy. Gene Anthony Ray, he died in 2003, and this is from his obituary in the Telegraph. Ray remained a, quote, frantic partygoer with a self-confessed weakness for drink and drugs. As his life fell apart, he slept on park benches, and during a failed attempt to launch a Fame-style dance school in Milan, shared a flat there with a porn actress. In 1996, he was diagnosed HIV positive. Wow. He suffered a stroke in 2003 and died.
Wow. Yeah.
So, rest in peace, Leroy. Well, obviously not Leroy. Gene Anthony Ray. But he really, you know, you can see like just his magnetism and his charisma jump off the screen. And he was one of the youngest people apparently in the cast, and one of the like he was, he didn't have any past experience. He came in like off the streets and blew everyone away, and so good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So good. So I know. What a bummer note. A bummer note. I'm so sorry, guys. Mm-hmm. But I'm really glad that we have his performance in this film and obviously in the TV show. And that he really was like quite a special talent.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I believe he got to reach fame. So
yeah,
you know, there's that.
He's Andrea Gin's favorite character, and also mine, because honestly, even though I haven't seen the TV show, he's my favorite character from the film too. Like, I just love him so much.
I have such a soft spot for Montgomery. I don't know what's going on with him. I couldn't figure out what he was lying about with his mother. Again, they didn't feel there was any need to explore that. Did he have a mother?
He seemed to be fully abandoned by a traveling actress.
Yeah, and so I didn't end that. But his beautiful face, that cascade of curls around it.
Do you remember him from ER?
Yes, I do. Yes, now that you say that, yes. Yeah, I don't know. There was something really beautiful about, again, when you said stairs, about when he meets Doris and he's just sitting on the stairs, and with that friendship, just, you know, I can't take that either. I got to be in here. Like, I'm not, you know, it's just too much for what I'm going to end up doing here. Yeah. And the fact that he just kind of had a real empathy toward what, like, Ralph was going through and what Doris was going through because of his own journey. I really, I could almost just like imagine a story about him, you know, but where he goes. And so, yeah, I really liked him. So,
does Fame pop?
Yeah, of course. I think it does. Yeah, I would recommend it. Mm-hmm.
I think so. I mean, I kind of want to go back to there are 6 seasons of the TV show, so it's unrealistic to think I'd watch all that, but I wouldn't mind dipping back into watching the TV show.
It's not unrealistic, I'm sure.
Did on like Etsy, could you buy like a Debbie Allen stick, like the staff she had that she would hit when they would
yeah. Yeah, I know, because I want more Debbie Allen.
Yeah, I want
and stuff.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
I'd like a series of T-shirts that just say more Debbie Allen, you know?
Yeah, it pops for me too. I love it so much. And I can't believe that I had never watched it until this year, but I'm just glad I finally did. So we'd love to also recommend something that we think you should check out. Lisa, do you want to go first?
I'm just finishing up the novel The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel, and it's quite different if you know her from Station 11, which is how I know her. Canadian novelist. She wrote a book about a pandemic. So depending on your interest in that subject in a fictional way, but I really love her writing. This book is definitely quite different. It's about kind of dissecting the person involved in a Ponzi scheme and all of the different casualties and how they came to him and how he started running this operation. So it's actually a very quick read, but for those of us on the West Coast, it's very much set in Vancouver Island and this kind of region. So highly recommending it, Glass Hotel.
Cool. Thank you. AG, what about you?
I'm recommending a show called Dear White People on Netflix. It's based on a movie from 2014 of the same name, but it's about a group of Black students at an Ivy League school, and one of them is a radio DJ at the student station and starts off all these kind of rants on her radio show by saying "Dear White People," and then proceeds to like go on an incredible rant. And it's very the show is incredibly well written, great characters, and very engrossing. So yeah, I highly recommend digging in.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you. I'm going to recommend it's sort of like so I'm going to recommend Buffy Sainte-Marie's new children's book called Hey Little Rockabye. It's very cute. It's very adorable. The song itself is really adorable. There are videos online of her singing the song, and just try to get through it without crying. But it's a kid's book based on her song, and it's about pet adoption. And it's so adorable, and and the illustrations are so adorable, and it's called Hey Little Rockabye, and it's just super cute, and I really recommend it. And I think everyone who loves pets and loves just music could get behind this.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. You can hang out with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can virtually sign Lisa's cast if you want to sign your signatures. Like her boot, anyways.
Yeah. It's my boot. I bought it, so
And you could rate and review us 5 stars on iTunes.
Always 5 stars. And our ticket to fame is always Andrea Gin here, was our producer and our co-host here. And I'm telling you,
the mean teacher.
If you ever get a chance to see her dance, it is legendary.
Yeah, I've only cried like twice from like different mean feedbacks you've given me. It's fine. And honestly,
exactly.
It was just like mildly ego shaking for me, but that's good. It keeps me humble. So that's great.
I like questioning my identity and my choices, and I appreciate the fact that you have always sort of said, "Is this really what you want to do?" Like, really sit with that.
Yeah,
spend some time. Spend some time.
Spend some time reflecting.
Yeah, that's my role here. That's my role.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
you
it.
are our mentor, Obi-Wan.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.